It is the third day of the campaign. Let's have a look at what has happened over the past 72 hours.
Ready to go? You bet. Born ready. My fellow Australians, this morning I visited the Governor-General and Her Excellency has accepted my advice that an election be held on Saturday, 3rd of May 2025.
I ask Australians for your vote for your Liberal and National candidates at the next election so that we can get our country back on track.
They are Delulu with no Salulu, Mr Speaker.
There can be a majority coalition government, and that's what I'm working every day between now and the next election to achieve. It's about who do you trust to manage the economy and to keep Australia safe in an uncertain time? Who do you trust to help young Australians get into homes more quickly? Who do you trust to deal with the problem that Labor's created?
No more gas, Mr Dutton, it's light.
What about the fact that people my age can't get any housing, we can't get rentals anymore, we have no future in this country anymore? Don't we think that's kind of ridiculous?
Price gouging is when supermarkets are taking the piss. This bloke, the health minister, I can't remember who their health shadow is, Anne Ruston.
All right, to break down the week that has been and the week that is coming up ahead, I am joined by two men, neither of whom are Delulu and both of whom have plenty of Salulus. Did I get that right? We've got Darren Barnett from Watson's Consultant and GXO Advisory Solutions, David Gazzard. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me here on the panel. Now, Anthony Albanese called the election on Friday morning. At 7:30 a.m., the Prime Minister went to the Governor-General, completely hijacking any media attention Peter Dutton's budget-in-reply speech may have received. And then, on the first full day of campaigning, the Prime Minister chose to campaign in Dutton's own electorate. Have a look.
I'm out to win new seats. I'm out to win here. I'm out to win Brisbane, Griffith and Ryan. I'm out to win Leichhardt, I'm out to win Bonner. You'll see us out and about during this campaign. I want a majority Labor government.
Darren, let's start with you on this here. How much of this is about the psychological head game here? I mean, we've got a contest between two parties, but it's really a contest between two experienced politicians. And was this an attempt, both of these moves, the early start on Friday and campaigning in Peter Dutton's seat, was this an attempt to get inside Peter Dutton's head and maybe rattle him a little bit? Yeah,
100% it was. And they are both highly experienced, but also highly combative and competitive individuals. And they're going to be quite pugilistic from here until election day. So 100% Albo was trying to get inside his head and just say, you had your little moment of time where you were elevated to the same position as Prime Minister in your reply speech, but I'm not going to let you bask in it. I'm going to pinch it from you and take back the ascendancy. And to be honest, if the roles were reversed, Dutton would have done exactly the same thing.
David Gazzard, would Peter Dutton have done the same thing, or was it just a little bit unsporting for the Prime Minister not to let the opposition leader get any airtime at all on his budget in reply, especially the fuel tax?
I think Darren's right. It's a tactical decision, and he's entitled to do that. It comes, though, with the downside that he immediately gifted Peter Dutton with a plane to crisscross the country to sell in his policies and his budget reply. So, who would know what the outcome of that is going to be? He might live to regret that. I think he'd be Delulu if we can take that theme to think that, Labor is going to win a majority and pick up seats. I don't think any poll says that. But you want to embolden your supporters. You want to put the frighteners into the supporters of your opponents. I remember doing this in the 2007 campaign with Peter Costello, where we campaigned in Lilly, the seat of the shadow treasurer, in a bid to sort of say, well, Lilly might be marginal enough that the Liberal Party picks it up. I don't know if anyone believed us, and the voters didn't, because Wayne Swan was returned with a bigger majority, as I recall.
Fair enough. Now, hey, you mentioned the polls. We've got this YouGov polling out earlier. Darren, this polling suggested that Labor would come back with, I think, something like 74, 75 seats, only needing one crossbencher to form a government. This seems, and I know that there's been movement in the government's direction on this, this seems incredibly optimistic to me. What do you think? What was your reaction to this YouGov poll?
Completely agree that it's highly optimistic. I don't think either side can safely say they're going to get over 70 at this point, and I don't think we can safely say who's going to win. So there's some advantage being underdog, and I think probably at this point Peter Dutton will try to claim that mantle, but the idea that Labor's within a couple of seats of majority at this point in time, I just don't think that's true.
No, I think you're absolutely right about that, Darren. But David, you know, we've also got the news poll, which has just come out, and that's come out 51-49 again to Labour. The biggest criticism I'm hearing from people on the Conservative side of politics is, where are the policies? Are you concerned that even though there are supposed to be a lot of things that are coming out to drop, they're running out of space to sell these policies, whatever new stuff that they've got coming up, that they're losing time, that they need to sell these in to the electorate?
The first point I'd make about the polls is that Peter Dutton definitely starts as the underdog. And that's borne out by history as well. There's only been one-term government in Australia's history. So Peter Dutton would be defying over 100 years of tradition to get up and win this. So he definitely starts from behind. The second is that there's a big difference between what is happening in the national polls and what is happening in a seat-by-seat basis. So the YouGovs and the news poll will be polling in very, very safe seats, which may show certain swings to certain parties. But as we know, the soft vote is incredibly high. Now, Peter Dutton has his job cut out for him over the next 5 weeks, but 5 weeks is a long time. It is very, very normal for oppositions to keep their powder dry until the campaign. You've got to remember that in this day and age, people don't switch on to campaigns until very late in the piece. So I would be saying, you know, there will be a release day by day of campaigns. And as I say, Peter Dutton has now got a taxpayer-funded jet, like the Prime Minister, to fly around the country, speaking those policies. But he does have his work cut out for him.
Yeah, no, look, that's fair enough. And I think, David, the point that you make particularly about these polls is something that everybody out there needs to keep in mind, that, you know, it is the seat-by-seat battle, and those safe seats are going to drag the numbers one way or the other. This is going to be a tight race any way you look at it. Darren, though, I want to go on to the other big issue here, supermarkets. Nobody likes their supermarket. You know, everybody is very, very cross with supermarkets and all of the big corporates really in general. Labour has vowed to crack down on price gouging as a cost of living thing. The Prime Minister defined price gouging as just basically supermarkets taking the piss. But I'm a little confused here, because the ACCC here, they had their big report the other day, and they said, well, look, the supermarkets are guilty of plenty of sins. You know, we're not going to say that they're not. But price gouging was a little bit hard to stack up. It seems like this policy is a bit like going into the meat section of Coles and coming out with vegan sausages. Is this a distraction that the Labour is trying to push out there?
I think they were just trying to take the issue off the table, that Peter Dutton had already been out there talking about possibly going as far as divestiture powers, which would be a fairly extraordinary step, I think. And this was a more middle-of-the-road approach. And I think it's just trying to take the issue off the table, to be brutally honest. I don't know. And we're so early in the campaign, no one's going to remember that particular announcement as being overly significant by the time pre-poll opens and by the time we hit election day.
But David, you know, I'm no fan of market interventions and the government getting in and, you know, complaining about prices and so on. But just in terms of the actual stick here, I mean, you would have to say that if you were concerned about the supermarkets, being able to whack somebody with the threat of divestiture is a bit more powerful than saying, hey, look, we're going to have a review into your prices, and if we don't like what's in that review, we might have another review, and maybe one day we're going to ping you for it.
Look, there's a number of points to make here, James. And the first is that the price of food has gone up.
Yeah.
But supermarkets in general, and there are more supermarkets than ever before and more chains than ever before, so there's more competition than ever before, make between 2 and 3% margin on their products, generally. But this is Band-Aid on a brain tumour territory, because the input costs to supermarkets, like everything else, education, insurance, petrol, energy, has gone up. So it's pointless coming at the end of the day and saying, well, we've changed workplace relations regulation to drive added costs into the supply chain. We've gone back to pre-Hawke and Keating days with workplace relations and industrial relations. We've changed a whole range of regulations and legislation to increase the input costs of all your food, and then getting to the end and saying, surprise, surprise, food prices have gone up. We're going to regulate the supermarkets. Now, how you do that is beyond me. It looks to me like this is sort of grocery watch Mark II, but you're getting very, very close to price setting again. Who does that? Who decides that the price of peas has gone up too much and we're going to regulate the price of peas? It's ridiculous.